Greetings, everybody. Hope everybody is fine and safe. My name is Dr. Urwa Tariq from Department of Media and Creative Industries, representing United Arab Emirates University, UAE, today in 6th International Conference on Communication Media Studies. My research study is about spiritualizing media. It's about study on expats seeking Islamic information in Dubai, UAE. And I'll be quickly summarizing about introduction, literature, review, methodology, findings, and conclusions today. To start with, I'd like to start by saying that studies have shown that throughout history, Muslims have been depicted negatively through Orientalism. By definition, Orientalism is when a group of people, sometimes deemed experts, scrutinize foreign culture or religion due to their own lack of knowledge or information. For example, Muslims seen as Arabs only, who are oppressed, illiterate, and irrational people. Till date, this continues through disinformation from Western media. However, this research study is not about disinformation, but dissemination of information through the right media channels. So this is what my research study is going to focus on. United Arab Emirates, which is a Muslim country but inhales a huge multicultural society, consists of 80% of expat population. Even though it is located in highly strategic and volatile region, it has the highest number of immigrants which covers non-Muslims as well. So this raises questions as, are non-Muslims affected by the Western media, even though they're living in a Muslim country? Are they interested to learn about Islam and Muslims since they live with them, they're surrounded by them? And if the answer is yes, how do they gather information? What platforms do they rely on? So this is what the research study intends to cover. However, I'd like to highlight as a disclaimer that the intention of this study is not to promote the religion or promote conversion to Islam, but it solely focuses on dissemination of knowledge for those who are interested to learn, which includes non-Muslims and new Muslims. They want to learn about Islam or gather information. Now, the literature review was covered into 3 sections, and the first one was about Western media representation of Islam and Muslims, starting from the negative framing of Islam by the Western media, and how a framing is done, why is it done, how is it done. Some possible reasons were presented according to some researchers, that there is a systematic pattern is followed with the media representation. For example, Western media usually hires experts in a form of journalists, presenters, reporters who make biased and subjective opinions about Muslims. They wrongly assume as experts or knowledgeable people who do not have any proper credentials. Then second comes elites, politicians, business leaders, huge corporations who act as a representative of a religion, which they themselves do not have any, idea. Then comes the online Islamophobia, which is covered in this section, emphasizing on growing cyberbullying and its impact among people, especially youngsters. The second part covered about initiatives to counter negative media representation. It talked about the initiatives taken by certain societies and countries to counteract Islamophobia and negative representation of Islam and Muslims. Like, for example, government in some countries have applied strategies and policies towards combating stereotypical opinions about Islam. Examples of Japan, Hong Kong, Spain, Singapore was highlighted. For example, Singapore has zero tolerance policy on racism and hate speech. The third section talked about growing interest in Islam among non-Muslims. It was observed that in some non-Muslims tried to gather some information about Islam and Muslims out of curiosity, and also due to the continuous negative framing of Western media within public domain. Many studies showed that they seeked information through digital media platforms due to the lack of interaction with Muslims. So they could not gather information other than relying on internet, website, books, getting to know people through online. However, and of course, reliance on digital media as a source of Islamic information. However, now my case study highlights Dubai, using the same concept, but focusing on a Muslim country where non-Muslims reside. Now, according to some Western media channel, of course, it's a top tourist destination with high expat ratio. It's a very oil-rich Muslim nation with metropolitan lifestyle, and however, how the media represents that the laws are very strict with for foreigners. There is lack of freedom of speech and human rights. It's not a safe place to live in. In fact, some non-Muslims and expats are frequently inquired by their family members and friends who are living abroad whether it's a safe place to live in. Are they fine? Are they okay? Even some blasphemy incidents which happened in UAE were recorded in Western media channels and promoted in a negative way. What media did not cover that such incidents which happened, which is rare, happened due to the lack of knowledge about the laws or the religion, and it basically was a misconception. So to cover that up, UAE Ministry of Tolerance have came up with several initiatives to promote the country's laws and policies and cultures and even the religion. For example, they came up with, they opened up a lot of Dawa centers. Now, Dawa center is, Dawa word itself is an Arabic word which means invitation or sharing knowledge. They opened up cultural centers, heritage centers, Islamic centers, Arabic centers, which is open for all, whether you're a Muslim, non-Muslim, new Muslim, anyone can come. They're welcome, acquire information, and leave without having any expectations. Then there were books which were distributed, campaigns in public places were launched, even few TV shows were launched, but again, it did not last long. Then some specific websites were created, toll-free numbers were created by the government. However, in spite of all the above initiatives, the study also got some references which revealed that there was still lack of awareness among non-Muslims and new converts, which was a new thing. They were not able to meet the informational needs, and every initiative taken had some sort of drawback. For example, the toll-free number which was launched was not that effective because of the timing, or the line would always be busy, or the communication would last for less than 5 minutes. If maybe I had a question and I needed some detailed explanation to it, so it had some drawback. Why am I covering statistics about radio? Out of all the platforms, why am I focusing on radio? Let's check some facts about radio here. Now, radio as a medium in UAE is more than 60 years old. It has the largest market share, not only in UAE, but within GCC and MENA region, and it high reliance. Now, large number of expat population exist in UAE. So because of that, there are more than 50 radio stations, and out of that, they're included in 20 different languages. So it's a huge, huge market. Also, the demographic of the population is most of them are commuting. They have a 9-to-5 job. Sometimes some of them have 12-hour job and long distance travel, long traffic hours. Some of them are using metro, bus, low income people and middle income people. So radio seemed to be a popular medium. As the statistics shows, there's car like 74%, and this shows the kind of programs people listen to. So this raises a curiosity and question whether radio could be an effective medium to disseminate information about Islam. Would it be accepted with the target audience? The diffusion of innovation was used as a theoretical framework. So 4 research questions were created. First, what perceptions do non-Muslims and new Muslims have about Islam in respect to the exposure to Western media representation? Second, how do they gather information and through which sources and which media outlets? Third, what are the challenges they encounter? Fourth, and what are the opinions of non-Muslims and new Muslims about English Islamic radio as a source? Now, again, due to the time limit, I couldn't cover up the detail, but exploratory sequential mixed method approach was used, meaning first qualitative data was collected, personal interviews were done, and then when the results were analyzed, quantitative methodology was used. And then later in the findings and conclusion, both the responses and findings were combined, and then we came up with a conclusion. So the qualitative data collection was done not only within Dawa centers again, to recall, cultural centers, Arabic language centers, Islamic centers. So interview was done within the staff and the people who went there as attendees. So it covered non-Muslim residents and new converts, the target audience. The residency were we made sure that the ones we are interviewing were residents for more than 3 years, that they had a good grip of the culture, tradition, and they've been living in UAE for more than 3 years. Age range was 18 and above, and total of 25 interviews were conducted, but only 19 were shortlisted. And 7% interviews was conducted within the center staff. Now, again, due to time limit, I have eliminated the results of the interviews done with the staff and only focused on the respondents, the ones who attended as their customers. Now, quantitative data collection, a survey question was prepared. Once the qualitative data collection was done, results were analyzed. Then the quantitative survey, questionnaire was prepared. E-survey was created. It was distributed within emails and WhatsApp messages, and 541 complete respondents we got. And target again was non-Muslims and new Muslims, and it took around 7 to 10 minutes for each survey to get filled. And it had around 22 questions, and SPSS was used. Now, the results of center visitors' perceptions and experiences. Now, the results showed where the respondents disclosed. The first question we asked about what was their perception about the Western media channel, and did it personally impact them. So we got two kind of responses. Excuse me. We got two kind of responses. One which said that no, I'm not at all affected by the Western media channel. I have my own opinions, and I know I can make a better decision. Whereas the other group said that yes, we were affected, and some of them shared their personal stories. For example, one of the respondents who was from Philippines and from a village said that there was some group who created mishap or chaos within the community and had some political agenda, and they claimed to be, from Islamic group whatsoever. So he became Islamophobic. However, when he came to UAE, he realized that that was all a political agenda. It had nothing to do with the religion. It had nothing to do with Islam. So it changed his perception. And it was not always the Western media. It was, a local media of his country of origin. So that was something interesting. Then motivating factors, what made them motivate to learn about a religion? Many of them said that it was not the religion aspect, but they wanted to know the cultural aspect. They wanted to know or understand the laws of UAE, why they were created, and somehow then it just led to understanding the religion. So just to gather information and have a good understanding about Islam and Muslims. Then initiating conversations. Again, many were seen to, again, this was very interesting, as non-Muslims creating conversation was differed with the new Muslims. New Muslims seems to create more, or they were more encouraged to create conversation. They would approach to a Muslim, or they would try to gather books, or they would try to acquire more information compared to non-Muslims who would a bit be hesitant and sure that who would they ask first. Either they would ask a Muslim friend, or they would go to media channels, or they would go to cultural centers to gather information. Most of the keywords used by confused or being careful or very cautious when asking about religion. And another issue was like, especially this was among new converts, that they looked for acceptance. Like once they accepted this religion as Islam, they looked for acceptance. It seems that among their workplace or group, their friends or family, they were hesitant, or they were not accepted when they accepted this new religion. So they were talking about the personal aspect here. The access to information, Islamic information and challenges. Now respondents were seen creating their own network of contacts. Now, as I depicted earlier, the initiatives taken by the government, it was not enough. So just going to Dawah Center, just going online, just toll-free number did not work out. So respondents started creating their own networks. For example, if I'm going to an Arabic language class, I would gather other people's mobile numbers, create a WhatsApp group, or add them in Facebook. And what was realized that everybody faced the same issue. This is why then they created groups. And in somebody, if had gathered certain information, they would share it among themselves. So this was very interesting. And also, a lot of initiative was made to reach out to various sources. One source or platform did not work out, they would try another one. There was one example when one of the respondents said that he tried to attend one center in Dubai, it did not work out. Then he went to another Emirates, Sharjah, it did not work out. Then he went to Abu Dhabi, another Emirates, and then he met a professor over there, and then he was satisfied that okay, his questions, his curiosity was answered. So this was something very interesting. And respondents also shared a lot of obstacles how they reached out to sources, especially among the low-income group who already had very few holidays. They would use their weekends to come to centers or meet their friends, gather information, and they had very limited time. So a lot of obstacles they faced while gathering information. And some of the respondents said that when they attended a center and they met the teacher, the class was packed. Teachers were sometimes boring and less sympathetic because it is like so many people asking questions. So there was no personal touch. So they mentioned some of the challenges. And of course, sometimes the timings did not suit them. The center, also the logistical issue was another thing highlighted. Now, just highlighting some quotes that when I have a controversial topic to inquire, I go to my Muslim friends, I notice there's a different belief. It would be nice to have one proper source. Another one mentioned, I observe how confused some Muslims are while answering. They might teach me a wrong concept and I'm not okay with that. Now, when they were asked about whether radio could be a possible medium, there were three kind of responses. Some of them said, yes, why not? Another ones were like, okay, could you let us know more details about it? When you say radio means how, what, when. Another category of people are like, yes, it could be, but radio is not enough. We need some digital mediums also along with it. And one of the most interesting thing about this research study is that when respondents stressed that the radio content should attract non-Muslims first and then Muslims, and the content aspect, many of them came up with the ideas of what kind of programs should the radio have, and majority of them did not focus on the religion, but it was more towards like history or human rights or etiquettes or laws. So question answer session. So this was something not expected from this research study. So it was something, a new discovery. And responses with busy schedules supported the radio as a medium more. And as we can see from highlighted quotes, Muslim music would be boring all the time. So yeah, I could tune it to radio station to learn some fundamentals. Now, quantitative again, because I did not go much into detail, I'll just cover up with the hypotheses, 4 hypotheses they created and which ones were proven correct. Like females were more interested in seeking information about Islam, which was something interesting. And accessibility to key sources was different among both the groups between non-Muslims and the new Muslims. Respondents with less education and low income were more interested in seeking information on Islamic faith, regardless whether they were new converts or non-Muslims. Respondents with less education and low income faced also more challenges. Most respondents listened to radio while computing, so that kind of supported the radio as a medium, and non-Muslims opted mostly for websites while new Muslims preferred a mobile app. And low-income groups surprisingly gave more preference to digital radio. Now, this was the media model created, that the radio would be available in a traditional method also, and there would be a digital radio also, which would have a radio website, radio mobile app, and also connected to Facebook. And the promotion could be done through local media channels, through Cultural and Heritage Center and Islamic Center. So everything is connected with each other. So the conclusion here is that there was a lack of association between respondents' exposure to Western media, representation of Islam versus their decision to seek Islamic information. There was no connection. The findings also revealed that the current status quo of expats in UAE, which was a new disclosure, demographics played a very important role in decision making. The proposed model might help disseminate information about Islam, which I have just shared. The limitation was, of course, that if the higher number of participants would have been added, it would have shown even more interesting results. And since females with low income created disparity, males actually couldn't find many males. Also, low income residents who had limited command of English were not included in the research study. And further areas of study could be content production that appeals to different audiences, comparative study examining other GCC Muslim countries, and involving other Islamic centers, both government and private, because I could include only government. Private centers did not participate in it. So thank you very much, and hope to receive any inquiries.